Hello everybody and welcome to one more video on big units. This time it's not properly a big unit, it's more or less two relatively big units, which is, the parts that confronted themselves in the Spanish Civil War. So you have here the Republican side here, and a little bit to my right you have the nationalists. Okay. So this is a very famous conflict here in Portugal. Of course, we also suffer the consequences of the war with refugees, with some help that was somewhat given to the nationalist side. Portugal was a republic on those days, but also a fascist republic. So Salazar, after the war, and even during the war, they get along. Salazar and Franco, they get along quite well. So it's a very important part of history, of Spanish history, still with plenty of scars. I remember being in Spain a few years ago. Of course, as they are neighbors, it's a very easy place to go. I was there, in fact, last week in Bilbao, around the Cinturón de Hierro, the iron belt around Bilbao, looking at those remains. And but a few years ago, I remember being in Barcelona, and a big scandal erupted from the fact that plenty of kids were known to be in Spain and were taken from the poor areas of the Republican areas by Franco and sent for adoption in the United States. They were virtually taken from the bellies of the mothers, and the doctors would say that they died during while giving birth. And so you see, there's still plenty of scars, plenty of misunderstandings between both of them, and some of them are not, in fact, misunderstandings, because the regime of Franco was extremely brutal, and I think even more people died during the days of Franco as president than during the war itself, which is in fact something dramatic, because this war was extremely brutal. Not only on the armies, but especially on the civilian population. It was a war that was characterized by massacres. I mean, the Republicans sometimes they also killed priests and things like that. But of course, the most famous mass killings were made by the Frankist armies, nationalist armies, supported by, of course, by Hitler and Mussolini, while the Republicans were supported by France, England first. In the end, only Mexico and Soviet Union were in fact helping the Republic. So it was also, as everybody knows, it was a war that started somewhat World War II modern warfare, because the usage of tanks and armored cars, but still with plenty of influence from World War One, plenty of trenches and things like that. Well, it's a very, 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 very interesting period of military history, of also political history, and it's. But in terms of modeling, it's not easy. It's not easy because there are very good Spanish brands like Minairons and others that produce 20mm figures, Panzer Garage also. But most of the things that you'll see here have some degree of conversion. There are also Boom from in Spain that makes this kind of miniatures. Sometimes they're not very easily accessible for several reasons. So again, as I told you, I'll use plenty of scratch building here. The aviation is also very interesting for the period. In fact, in terms of proportion, I have more aviation than the rest. It should be the opposite, of course. So let's see the models. Let's start with the Republicans, and let's see here, for instance, a battalion of Republican infantry. Ejército Popular Republicano. As you can see here, you have conversions everywhere. There are, in fact, several helmets that the Spanish used. Spanish used at least three kinds of helmet. They used the Trubia, which is a Spanish designed, a little bit like the World War One steel helmet from the Germans. They use also the a kind of Czech helmet, which looks a lot with Japanese helmet, and the Adrian helmet. French type Adrian helmet. So sometimes this makes the units a little bit mixed in terms of equipment and uniforms. So there are, of course, some regulations that were not completely fulfilled. Sometimes trousers were inside the boots, other times outside. Also, the dyes of the uniforms was sometimes a little bit different from almost from man to man, which makes, of course, the Spanish Republican unit and also the Frankists particularly interesting to paint. So you have a little bit of everything here. For instance, you have here the introduction. For instance, to the left, you have here also a very good help for wargaming. Spanish Civil War, which is of course Irregular Miniatures. Irregular Miniatures has an extensive metal figures. They have an extensive range of Spanish Civil War. You see here, for instance, to the left, one of the Irregular Miniatures figures. Then you see the Russian World War II mortar fighter with a World War I German helmet, meaning that it's the Trubia. And you have here, what is this guy? This is an American. The guy to the right is an American with an Zebellino cap. Probably converted, I don't know, I'm not sure, but probably converted from the helmet itself with the usage of some fire. So you see conversions a little bit everywhere. Some from plastic, other slightly bent metal figures to give new positions. You see plenty of, for instance, of the green guy in the middle is a World War II Marine. I used plenty of World War II Marines by Revell with Japanese hats, and they make a Republican guy with a Czech helmet. To the side, you see here a French World War II. Those guys that are a little bit irrelevant because they're not 1940. So what we like really is 1940 French. And this guy has a World War II Revell helmet, the Trubia helmet. Trubia was a little bit more round, but well, this is okay for it, I think. So, I mean, you can see plenty of other conversions, Esci Russians with different heads and things like that. So this is the way I make my EPR, Ejército Popular Republicano. Now for some artillery, for instance, you have here the First to Fight 75s with Irregular Miniatures artillerymen. You have here hat industry, the Putilov 76.2 Putilovs, with Irregular Miniatures. Artillery, scratch-built limbers. I saw a picture of these guys entering into Sevilla, if not mistaken. The Nationalists entering in Sevilla with this kind of two-horse limbers, very simple. Also used by the Republicans. Here is the Cossack figure of Esci with an Isabellino cap. I think these Isabellino caps, some of them were squashed from the melted plastic. Others were made, mostly I think I make them from evergreen, green stuff. And horses are eventually Cossack or Esci horses. Cossack from Revell and Esci horses. Yeah, exactly that. Now for the Guardia de Asalto. 6 companies, they were very small companies, 60 men each, so 5 men are even a little bit generous. Again, plenty of conversions. Again, you can see Irregular Miniatures. And then this mortar guy that is, I think it's a completely Frankenstein guy with legs from Marines, from World War II American Marines. The torso comes from somewhere else, and the head probably is from somewhere else. And this guy giving a mortar round is also a World War II Marine converted, with the World War I British heads by Airfix. Yeah. Command stand with several Irregular Miniatures figures. The the Russian MMG here. Everything is irregular miniatures again. And for the figures themselves, I mean, you see a mixture of the gray and new gray and old blue uniforms. Again, Marines with Airfix, no, with the green stuff, Isabelino caps. There is also another cap that you can use, which is the pasamontañas. The I mean, translating means the cap that you can use in order to pass a mountain. I mean, sorry for the long sentence. Something like this. Then you see also a Italeri on the hands of regular miniatures, Guardia de Asalto, assault guards. Others are metal, others are conversions, as you can see. Well, and together with the Guardia de Asalto, you can see here some these are the Trubia, if not mistaken. No, sorry, the Bilbao armored cars, and these are by Minairons. Some very cute resin and metal, vehicles. And then you find yourself, I mean, looking for special markings and things like that. It is a very interesting period to wargame. Continuing with vehicles, you see here a Trubia tank by Regular Miniatures. A little bit wrong. It was based on the few available, probably many years ago, pictures of this thing. Nowadays, I'm sure if your Regular Miniatures makes it again, it will make it completely different. But even so, it's a funny little kit. You see here a Schneider, also by Regular Miniatures, with plenty of inscriptions. Most famous was the "No pasarán," they will not pass, they shall not pass. A little bit like Gandalf was saying. Gandalf, in fact, managed, but unfortunately, the Republicans didn't. You see here a Nashquad by what? This is by Panzer Garage, yeah. The Camion Protegido, Nashquad. Panzer Garage makes some very unique, this kind of strange contraptions that mostly Republicans, made during the war. Also by Minairons, you see an MC-36, Hispano-Suiza MC-36, also Minairons, big and very beautiful vehicle. There are some BA-6 by Pegasus also. It's one of those two model in the same pack builds. And finally, in terms of tanks for Republicans, vehicles for Republicans, you see here this is a converted command tank, but all of them are Pegasus. Pegasus? No, Minairons, sorry. These are the T-26 by Minairons. Irregular miniature commander over there with Russian helmet. This is the original Minairons. And this command set of radio set, sorry, is also scratch built. In terms of ground for Republic, this is what I have, not much, in fact. Now let's go to the nationalist side. Nationalist side, for you see here two tabors of the dreaded Moors that Franco brought from North Africa. This, in fact, is these towers are from Larache, and they are completely converted figures. I used mostly you can see here, I used mostly the Zvezda Ottoman, completely converted into Moors with plenty of green stuff parts and cut down turbans because they're not that big. You can see here plenty more of the same. For instance, you see here the World War I Germans with Esci heads from the muslin set. in order to make, then with blanket rolls made of green stuff, in order to make the Moors. I generally go to Badajoz many times, and these guys participated in one of the worst mass shootings of the war against civilians. They killed several thousands after conquering the city, and there are some terrible places in Badajoz that shows it still. One of them is the Bull Plaza, which has a very funny inscription there, which says La Plaza Más Fea de España, with the ugliest plaza in Spain. Probably it is. So you have here more irregular miniatures, more Revell conversions. Some of them have the fez. Sorry. Others have the turban. For the machine guns, there is a funny fact. For instance, all machine gunners, let's try to focus, are Spanish, in fact. So, as you can see, a lighter tone of skin. They can have the fez, but they're all Spanish. The number 2 and number 3 could be Moors, but I'm using the only Spanish guys with no turban on their heads for the machine guns. For the machine gun fighter, at least. Same over there on the second tabor. Okay, so more of the same here and more of the same over there. So plenty of converted Esci bodies, mostly Revell bodies, Esci heads, and irregular miniatures figures. Now for the Legion. There's a full Bandera Legion here. Also very, very funny to make. You may recognize here the Russian Revell figure, kneeling and firing, the Japanese Esci figure charging. The Granadero trousers are made with a little bit of extra green stuff. Isabelino caps made of green stuff. And here they are. There are also some boom figures here. Also some irregular miniatures, but most of the figures, as you can see, are conversions, which is one of my favorite things to do, to tell you frankly. They become cheaper and somewhat they become unique, so it's also they become mine, only mine, which is something that everybody likes, I think. Well, I don't know, that part I'm not really sure. So we more irregular miniatures here. This is the very old the guy placing the round on the mortar is a very old Chinese copy, a Japanese figure, a Chinese copy of the Esci, I think, if I'm not mistaken, converted into a Isabelino cap, and the trousers are already okay. They look really like the Granadero trousers. And then there are irregular miniatures figures. You can see here the Legion flag here. This is a Russian officer by Revell, converted also again. This guy here is what? I think this is a boom figure, I'm not really sure. More figures here, the small mortar. MMG. MMG is what? MMG, if I'm not mistaken, it's the Ochkis. Yeah, that's right. Also figures coming a little bit from everywhere. And extra machine gun, because Banderas had extra machine guns and were quite large units. In relation to tanks, I don't have much for the nationalists. Only these 3 Minairons Panzer ones, and everything is seen in terms of ground war. Now let's start with the aircraft, and let me use a little bit of memory for it. So you have here a Letov 231 by KP. It's a Czech brand. You have here the Azur and the Neopor 52 by Azur. Also a very interesting piece of flying material. You have here this is the older, this is the Blosch MB200 by SMER. But in fact, it was also sold by Heller and things like that. You see here the more modern MB210, the Blosch MB210, and this one is Heller. Yeah. Also flying, you see here Lockheed Orion by Special Hobby. You see here, of course, Polikarpov, of course. I have also two others with only with one wing. So this is the Polikarpov. The Polikarpov. I'm not really exactly remembering the name, but this is a metal, extremely heavy model. It comes already like this. Not much to do, only to add the no, even the crewman, even the aviator was inside. Everything was here, and there is also some very nicely placed strings. Everything coming from factory. In one of those brands that sells this. It was in fact something like I'm not sure if it was Altair, something like that. Maybe, but this one I found in my second-hand fair in Coimbra. There is also a Fokker F7 from Valom. There is another one that I should have made. I should have converted to place a machine gun over there. There was a model with machine gun. It would have been much better, but well, I think I must have found also only that version later. Now going to the nationalist side, you see here. When you hear me saying "you see here," it's because I'm trying to read where I have this thing. Let me check in the middle of this mess. So there is, for instance, let's start here with the CR32, Italian CR32, of one of the aces of the war, Garcia Morato. He was flying this thing here with his numbers and everything. And this model is a supermodel, Italian brand. There is a KP Letov. This is a Letov, if I'm not mistaken. No. This is an Aero A101 by KP. Okay. Very interesting vehicle. Very interesting aircraft also. And also, of course, finding all these camouflage, all these painted details, it's also something very interesting for the Spanish Civil War. And what else? What else we have here? We have here a Kant Z501 by Italeri. I had it for years here without knowing exactly what I could do with it. It became a nationalist aircraft. There were few, of course, not many. There were few given by Mussolini to Franco. There is also here the. Let me check what this thing is. This is. Oops. This is a G50, original version of the G50, and it is. It's an Airfix, a very old Airfix model with a different rotor and with a plastic cover, improvised plastic cover on top of the cockpit to make the early version of the G50. And finally, there is Italeri BR20. I made also a Japanese one together with this one, and is ready to participate in the war with this striking camouflage. So this is it. This is still at the beginning. So I'll add more and more models to this period. It's very interesting, very hard to find information. Not very hard. It's not hard. It is challenging. I should say, not hard. There are also other good models into this period, like for instance Richard Weber. He lives in Spain and he's always around also the Spanish Civil War. So he is also seeing his work, also getting inspiration by many others, of course. So this is a very, very interesting period. Go for it, and hope you have enjoyed. Probably next video will be the Polish Army of 1939. Okay. So bye bye, and thank you for watching, and see you soon. Bye bye.